Okay, in this message, we are going to talk about the basics of the 7 Ekklesia, the 7 churches, the kind of themes throughout each epistle or writing to each church. And we're also going to talk about some of the other expressions throughout these that are very, very important for us to understand, okay? Now, what I first encourage you to do is understand how this YouTube channel works. Okay, if you are just watching this video and you don't really listen when I tell you to watch the other videos in the playlist or the other videos, you're not going to really understand the things that we're talking about. There's just nothing I can do. I understand there's a lot of videos, guys. There's 360 videos. Most of it is teaching like this. Now, basically how this YouTube channel works is I will do a playlist. So when you're in YouTube, go to playlist. And you go to playlist, you will see the various topics we've already covered. Many of those topics, what I'll do is I'll compile the notes of the subject matter into pages like this. So many of the playlists will actually have a book associated with them. So what you can do is follow the notes and follow the playlist and follow the message. So for those of you that are new, I know it's a lot of information, it's a lot of content, but I mean, it can't be expected I'm just going to record videos or repeating the same things over and over. I'm not going to do that. So as we go through this playlist, the 7 Ekklesia, I will also do the same thing. I will make these notes available to you and you can follow them. Sometimes you don't even need to watch a video. You can just get the notes. But what I strongly encourage you to do is study. Study to show yourself approved. Study these things. See if they are not so. And as we go through this, the entire channel is about the book of Revelation. However, there's a couple videos I suggest, like the basics of how to read the book of Revelation. I'll put a link in the description field for that video, how to read Revelation. And basically we're going through how to read and understand the 7 churches. Okay, so we had our intro video which we talked about Asia. Now we are going to talk about why these 7 churches, or what is the meaning of the 7 maidens, the 7 women. We'll look at it as we go. Now the first thing we have is every address is to a specific church. John is instructed, write unto the angel, to the Ekklesia, church at, and we get a specific city. So he writes and it's to be delivered to that Ekklesia. Then after that he says, say to him that writes. So basically he gives us a characteristic of the Alpha and Omega, this person. Okay, so then what he says is each church gets a particular description of him. And so the first church is Ephesus, and he says, to he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks in the middle of the 7 golden menorahs. Okay, many of your English translation will say candlesticks, but those are menorahs. So what are those? 7 stars, which are the 7 angels to the 7 churches. The second church is Smyrna, and it says, the first and the last which was dead and is alive. So each one is getting a characteristic of the Son of God. And the third one is, I believe, Pergamos, and he which has the sharp sword with 2 edges. Okay? And what I encourage you to do is study and research each aspect of him, and you will see astonishing revelation as he releases this glory, release these different aspects of him. The fourth is Thyatira, the Son of God. Okay, even now, just the simple idea to say Jesus Christ is the Son of God is in dispute. Okay, and that's just absolutely astonishing, but it shows the apostate nature of the people in the last days. With his eyes like a flame of fire and his feet like fine brass. So this is all the different descriptions we see in Revelation chapter 1, okay? and the eyes like fire, okay, his feet like fine brass, as if he were in a furnace. Now this description also we do find in Daniel chapter 10, where the Alpha and Omega also reveals himself to Daniel. And Daniel chapter 10, verse 5, when I lifted up my eyes, I looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. And we know this is Alpha and Omega as he appears to John, like the Son of Man. Verse 6, his body was like beryl, his face the appearance of lightning. So the face of lightning, the eyes as a flame of fire, and his eyes as lamps of fire. It says it precisely there. And his arms and his feet like the color of polished brass. Now what this means is, may not appear in the video, but over here it's an altar. So what this means is this is the aspects of the priest and administering at the altar, where he walks upon the stones of fire. Okay, and this fire, makes his skin as a polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Okay, same thing we see in Revelation chapter 1. So this appearing of him as this glorious state, his hair white like wool, okay, is being expressed to these 7 ecclesia, these 7 churches. Now our 5th church is Sardis, and he has the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. Okay, we know the 7 stars in his right hand, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the 7 spirits of God. And the 6th church is Philadelphia, and it says, he that is holy and true, he that has the key of David, and opens and no man shuts, and shuts and no man opens. The 7th church, Laodicea, the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of creation of God. So each church is addressed with a different aspect of him, and then the first words are, I know. So he addresses each one, says, this is who I am, and then he says, I know your works, I know this, I know, and goes into a description. Okay, so that is consistent with every 7 of the ecclesia. Then what is consistent with the 7 ecclesia is he says to each one, he that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the ecclesia. It's worded the exact same way every time. So what does this mean? We have 7 ecclesia. We have 7 churches. And 7 times this expression is made. So these, when he's saying, let him hear what the Spirit, these are the 7 spirits of God. Okay? And each one has a aspect to them. Okay, you can see this in Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1, 2, 3, where you have this 7 spirits of God, and they are named the spirit, or in Hebrew, Ruach, of Yahweh, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of understanding, the spirit of counsel, the spirit of might, the spirit of knowledge, and the spirit of the fear of the Lord. Each is a lamp on the menorah, candlestick, the branch. Okay, now what is happening? The aspects of him, the revelation and revealing of Alpha and Omega, he who was, who is to come, the Alpha and Omega, who was the first and the last. Okay, he has the sword. All these descriptions, right, are what? To raise up this bride. Okay, now the bride is raised up by the 7 church angels. They raise her up and instruct her, as do the 7 spirits of God. We'll look at the notes later, guys, as a summary, but Daniel is also raised up by the 7 spirits of God. In Daniel chapter 1, verses 4 and 5, we can see the same 7 spirits of God listed there in Daniel as he prepares for the king. The next thing we have is to he that overcomes. So what we have is, he that has an ear, let him hear what he says the Spirit says to the churches, To he that overcomes. So this is a precise address to all 7 churches. To he that overcomes, I will grant something. Okay? Now we have another video on how Jesus Christ is a type of Joseph. And Joseph is received those rewards, okay, as the, second in command. And those same rewards that Joseph received, okay, we find those characteristics in the 7 churches. So what does this mean? It means that the Alpha and Omega, when he receives the rewards from the Father, he then distributes those rewards to the 7 churches. Amazing. Okay. So there is a basic cadence, a basic theme that is consistent throughout the 7 churches. Each church will have a theme, okay? We will go over the theme of each church as it relates to the differences of the Son of God, of the overcomers in each aspect. We'll do that later, guys. But as you're reading it, what we can see is a very consistent theme of these characteristics. He, the 7 spirits of God, to he that overcomes. Now, the 7 churches, what is this? Now, this is, remember when he appeared to Moses, okay? He appeared and he had the tables of stone. He had the law, okay? The writing of the law. Well, when the king returns a second time, it says the king is to write a second law. Okay, so when he comes and he's reigning, it's the Son of Man that appears in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. The Son of Man, okay, is the Jubilee. Okay, he is the restoration of all things. That's what he's doing. How is he Jubilee? How is he 50? Well, remember the 7 menorahs. Each have 7 lamps. 7 times 7 is 49. And then you have the Son of Man standing in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. He is the lamp of eyes with fire, which you can see. And he is the 50th. Okay, so now what you have is through his light, through, when light passes through a prism, okay, it goes into 7. So we have 7 Ekklesia, we have 7 colors. And we try to express that in the notes as well. Roy G. Biv. When we have yellow too, these are the colors, okay? So the colors of the rainbow, 7 colors, is the 7 spirits of God. Okay, now let's talk about Esther, the 7 maidens in Esther, and we're going to talk about the 7 women in Isaiah chapter 4. So, in the book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 10, the king summons the bride, summons the queen, summons Vashti, and does so with 7 chamberlains. They're listed, okay? And we know these chamberlains to be the 7 stars in the right hand, which are the 7 angels to the 7 Ekklesia. Then, in Esther chapter 1, verse 13, we have the 7 wise men, which knew the times, okay? These are the 7 archangels, which are given 7 trumpets, and Revelation chapter 8. Then in Esther chapter 2, Esther is preparing for the king. When she's preparing for the king, she's given 7 maidens. Okay, so we know these 7 maidens assist Esther in her year of preparation for the king. So these 7 maidens are the 7 churches, the writing to each church, the instructions, okay, for the coming of the king. So just like the king sits upon his throne, the Son of Man has sat upon his throne. We saw all his characteristics of his glory. And then we see these 7 maidens in Esther, which would then thus instruct her for the king. Now, next we have the 7 women in Isaiah chapter 4. It says, 7 women shall take hold of one man. Now these 7 women come from the description we see in Isaiah chapter 3. And these are the daughters of Zion. Okay? The daughters of Zion are stripped of their ornaments. In verses 16 through 26, we can find 24 ornaments. Okay, we have 24 elders. We have 24 ornaments of the daughters of Zion being stripped. Just like Vashti was divorced, the daughters of Zion are stripped of their ornaments. Okay, so what do we have? We have the king coming. His invitation to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And what happens? The people make excuse. Okay, so Vashti is all the religious systems not preparing for the king. They are all stripped of their ornaments. They are all given writings of divorce. Okay, and we have another video on these 24 ornaments, which we will link after this video as part of our playlist on the 7 Ekklesia. Okay, so the 7 women, they come to one man. They come to the Son of Man. They come to and asking, okay, for, they say certain things. Now, we also have Esther. She is given a main eunuch, okay, that oversees the preparation of the virgins for the king. Daniel as well has a main eunuch. Okay, so we have many parallels between Daniel and Esther in preparing for the king. Okay, so we have this one man, and then she says this. The 7 women say this in Isaiah chapter 4. We will eat our own bread. So what do we have? We have bread. Now, these characteristics we can clearly see identify with the church of Laodicea. Why? Because he says, to he who hears my voice, the voice of a trumpet, okay, I will open to him, and he will what? Sup, eat with me. Okay, this is what all of this is, the marriage supper of the Lamb, the preparation for the king. Then she says, we will wear our own apparel. In the church of Laodicea, she is described as poor, blind, and naked. Christ is admonishing them to buy from him gold, that they may purchase white raiment, white garments, okay, which is white linen. So she said, she identifies the apparel she needs. Only let us be called by your name. Okay, now your name here has to do with the fact that when she's divorced, when the daughter of Zion is divorced in chapter 3, now she has no name. She has no inheritance. Okay, so she needs a new name. And always in preparation for the king, Daniel, Esther, others always have a new name. Again, we have a video on get your new name. Okay, the king will address you by your new name. Okay, not the one that your parents gave you. Okay, so she needs a new name. Now, this is necessary because inheritance goes to the son. Okay, and the woman must have the man's name. All right, so she identifies this. Why? To take away the reproach, the shame. Okay, and this is the shame that is described in the church of Laodicea, that you're the shame of your nakedness. Okay, amen. Simple enough. Daughter of Zion, stripped of her ornaments. Okay, and we have this description of 7 women, these 7 churches that are in need of bread, clothing, a new name, and the shame removed. 4 things. Okay, clearly in the church of Laodicea. Then verse 2, in that day, the branch. Now the branch is Jesus Christ. Okay, we can find him in Zechariah chapter 3 verse 8. My servant, the branch, upon one stone are 7 eyes. Okay, and we know that the Lamb has 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God. Revelation chapter 5 verse 6. Okay, so this is the branch. We also see the branch in Zechariah chapter 6 verse 12, and Jeremiah 23:5 and 33:15. The branch. Okay, the branch of Yahweh will be beautiful and glorious. All right, so this is the branch it's talking about. And those left in Zion, remaining in Jerusalem, shall be called holy, everyone that is written among the living. Okay, written in the living, of course, has to do with the Lamb's book of life. Okay, in Jerusalem. And he will be a sukkah, a tabernacle, in the day from the heat, Horeb, Mount Horeb. So all of this is the symbolism that we can see in Isaiah chapter 4. There's a lot more. For time's sake, we're not going to get into it. But there we have what? The 7 maidens. We have the 7 women. And we have the 7 spirits of God that prepare for the king. Now we're going to look at the notes, and we're going to show you Daniel, example of the 7 spirits of God, but they are governors, tutors that raise up the children. A child is no better than a servant as an heir. So what they must be raised to maturity. So these all raise us to maturity, as we are instructed also by the angel of the covenant. It's the angel covenant that visits John in Revelation 1:1 to show his servants what must come to pass. He sent to signify by his angel unto his servant John. Revelation 22:16, I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the Ekklesia. So there's a main angel of the covenant, that's over the 7 Ekklesia. Okay, this is the main Ekklesia. So let's go over our notes. Let's do a quick review, and then we'll conclude. Okay, what have we learned? We have learned in Revelation chapters 2 and 3, we have the revealing of Alpha and Omega. He who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks in the midst of the 7 golden menorahs. The first and the last, which was dead and is alive, which has the sharp 2-edged sword. The Son of God, who has eyes like the flame of fire and feet like fine brass. He has 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. He is holy and true. He that has the key of David. The Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of creation of God. He says, I know your works. Okay, so what we have, he says, I know. Then, 7 times to each ecclesia, he says, he that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the ecclesia. This is the 7 spirits of God expressed by the menorah. Okay, you see the yellow lamps, and you see the 7 colors. Okay, the branch, which we can see as well in Daniel chapter 1 verse 4. Now see what they're called: the Spirit of Yahweh, wisdom, understanding, counsel, might, and knowledge and fear of the Lord. So let's look at Daniel. Let me find our notes. I, of course, encourage you to get the notes. Whenever we do a playlist, we will do our best to provide you the notes. Here we are in Daniel, and here we can see the 7 spirits of God in Daniel chapter 1 verses 4 and 5. The spirit of understanding, wisdom, knowledge, counsel, might, fear of Yahweh. And then in Daniel 2:1, the spirit, Ruach. Okay, so we have 7 spirits of God. We have the 7 maidens. We're going to look at that. And then Esther has preparation. What? 6 months of myrrh? 6 months of sweet odors. So each is preparing for the king. So I will have a link for this as well. Daniel and Esther's preparation for the king. Okay. And let's get back to this video. So we have the 7 spirits of God which prepare for the king. Each church is admonished to, he that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit. Which Spirit? All 7. So there are 7 spirits, 7 churches. Then it says, to he that overcomes. And then the overcoming rewards are granted. All right. Then we have Esther, chapter 1, verse 10. 7 chamberlains are the 7 stars, or the 7 angels to the ecclesia. We have 7 wise men, which knew the times, as 7 archangels. Then 2:9, we have 7 maidens, which help prepare Esther for the king. These are the writings to the 7 churches. Then we have Isaiah 4, 7 women take hold of 1 man, the daughters of Zion. We will eat your bread, we will wear your apparel, and we will be called by your name. Just take away our reproach. Clearly the church at Laodicea. So we have the daughter of Zion, stripped of her ornaments because of pride, just like Vashti is. She is divorced. Then Isaiah 4:2. We're here. In that day, the branch, Sama, okay, my servant the branch of the 7 spirits of God. The Lamb has 7 horns, 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God. And that branch of Yahweh will be beautiful and glorious. And those left in Zion and remaining in Jerusalem called holy. Everyone that is written in the book of life. Okay, and then the angel of the covenant. Okay, so guys, that concludes it. And I might have, yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to include one other aspect of this video I'll have to record later, where we talk about the council. Now you'll notice throughout the series we'll have this diagram. This is what we saw in Zechariah chapter 3. It said one stone will have 7 sides. So these are the 7 sides. And then as we look in the middle, you can see it counts to 50. See that? So these are the 7 Ekklesia, 7 times 7, and there are weeks throughout the year. So for example, we are in the 7th month. That would mean we are in the 1, 2, 3, 3rd Ekklesia. The 3rd Ekklesia, first is Ephesus, second is Smyrna, 3rd is Pergamos. So we're in the time of Pergamos within the 7th and 8th months. So these are the months of the year, and then these are the weeks of the year. We have other videos on this. We're not going to spend a lot of time, but we just want to mention briefly that this is the stone in Zechariah chapter 3, where it says, upon one stone will be 7 eyes, 7 sides, and 7 colors. So please look in the description field. We'll have a playlist on this series, and also the other videos we will have in the description field for the links that we've discussed.